Hello, this is Smislav the Slayer doing another live Blitz chess game commentary. Got the Queen's Gambit, and I'm going to play the Shigorin defense. And white takes, so and plays knight f3. I'm just going to develop my bishop, and I think I'm going to go ahead and play queen to a5. I'm not sure if that's actually what you're supposed to do in this position. That's what I'm going to do. Castle. Let's see. Let me think a second. So there's a real knight move to somewhere. And then I think queen b6, maybe queen b5, queen e3, queen b4, no. Well, knight to d5 I'll just take, knight to b, okay, so knight to e4, then I can play knight to d5, okay. So I think I've got everything covered. I just want to make sure that I could handle, wherever this knight went to, I could handle the tactics that would come from that. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the king side now, with the queen, just to get off that pin. Gonna go ahead and push e5. Now if e takes, not exactly sure what I'd do then. I think I would just play bishop to b4 maybe, something like that, and just try to play for pressure basically. So, yeah. So this is kind of an interesting game. I'm kind of just, I don't really know what I'm doing here. But I think I've created some weird things. I have maybe just e takes. I don't know. No, I don't think that was a good move at all. What he's going to do is bishop takes, queen takes, knight takes, a, check, and he gets the queen. Unfortunately for him, it's not quite that simple. So pawn takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, knight takes, check. I guess he has queen b3 check. Yeah, it is kind of bad. So I'm going to go ahead and just play my king over here. I'll have e takes this next move maybe. Or at least I can play a6 and push his things back a bit. Finish up my development and play knight f6, maybe knight e7. Something like that. Basically, I want to get at his king. Unfortunately, my queen's kind of not in the best spot. Well, maybe f5, f5, e4. It doesn't really do a whole lot. The reason I say my queen's in a bad spot is that the best pawn break here is g5, g4, and the queen's obviously blocking that. Like h4, h5, h5, h4 doesn't actually do anything. And I mean, like, yeah, so that's kind of a problem. That's not ideal. I think knight to f6. I hope I'm not lagging again. I lagged last game. Because it's kind of another long think. Yeah, I think definitely my next move would be e takes d4. And then probably knight to f6. Well, my queen just is kind of in a weird spot. It makes it difficult to develop my minor pieces, which is one of the reasons you're not supposed to move your queen out so early. But that's kind of part of the Shigorin defense. So you work with this kind of stuff. Like white's development isn't very good either. If you look at his bishop, is sort of just out there. You know, it's on the long diagonal, but it's also in front of his pawns and like vulnerable to harassment maybe. His dark square bishop is blocked in. His knight is just out there, like complete, you know. And his queen doesn't really have a good square to go to. Maybe b3, but that's it. His castling king side isn't really ideal for him. Castling queen side isn't really ideal for him. So I mean that's the reason you play these kind of positions. Now I really do hope I'm not lagging for this long. It's possible though. So I think yeah, I guess knight f6, bishop to e7. Okay, so he castles. Well, one of us is lagging. It doesn't say who. Now I'm wondering if I just don't want to actually take on d4. In fact, I am sure I don't want to take on d4. I'm going to go ahead and play e4. Now his bishop goes to there. Now f5, f4, or maybe f5, queen f6, or queen f7, then g5, g4. Basically, just try to push all these pawns up this way and get something going there. Now, here, this could be a problem. This b7 square. And there's not exactly a good way to deal with it. I think I'm just going to play queen to f6 and pretty much delay the development of this dark square bishop. I think the e7 square I'm going to use for my knight. Pretty sure. I think I'll do that right now. If d5, I think I have knight takes d5, so. And then g5, g4, and then maybe the bishop can come here, or just basically stay where it is. I do have to be really wary of tactics, and though there's d5, which could knock this knight off, which would make this c7 pawn weak. There's this b7 pawn can be weak, this a7 pawn can be weak. So my king is kind of exposed here to these open lines, but I think I should be able to hold it off and maybe try to open a few lines of my own. And I think once I do open my own lines here, it's going to be much more difficult for white to defend his king. Whereas I think I can probably handle defending mine. So now I think there's a d5 push, but I still have rook takes d5. Oh, no, I don't. No, I don't have rook takes d5. I do have queen to a5. It's not ideal, but something. Now, do I want to play g4 or f4? I think definitely f4. Well, maybe not definitely f4, but I played it. So, okay, just play f3. Rook takes. Now, where's the knight going to head to? B takes. Knight takes. The knight really can't actually go anywhere. To just. Oh, wait. Is there a checkmate there, though? Knight to d6. King. Oh, yeah, the king can't go there. So, knight to d6. Be very bad because I have to go king a7. Well, so I kind of just bungled this a bit. Well, trying to think of a way to save this here. Queen takes, rook takes, pawn takes, knight to d6 check, king to a7, queen to b7 mate. Rook to d6. Queen takes. Doesn't really do anything. Let's see. Knight to d7 or d6. Yeah, there's just no way of getting around that. Okay. I think bishop to d6 might be the best way to go here. If knight takes, then rook takes. Now I still don't have bishop takes. But I can also try to get this bishop. So he's got his rook and his bishop actually unprotected. I maybe took too much time with that. Well, I guess I had to do something. So now, pawn takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook with the checkmate threat. Yeah. Now I have b6. If rook to c7, b6, I think. Then bishop to a6. I can kind of ignore. Ooh, I can't ignore that. Okay, so I think that's pretty much game over. Yeah, that's pretty much it. No way to get out of this. It's not really. I guess I'll just take the bishop. Go out with style. Okay, he's thinking for a little bit. Well, I'll just start reviewing the game. So, yeah, okay. Now, queen to a5. I think maybe bishop to g4 wasn't best here. You know what? That's probably it. I think actually e5 is what you're supposed to do here. So I kind of messed this up right from the get-go. With the idea if e takes f5, or if d takes e5, then the queen takes the queen, and white gets a pawn, but it's a doubled e pawn, and it's not really strong for white. So, and black usually should be able to get this pawn back and get some decent play. So, he basically sacrifices a pawn to get to a decent middle game / end game. So that was one problem. Maybe he's just a little too ambitious with a lot of this stuff. And here, I think I probably should have well, yeah, I mean, let's see. I'm not sure what I could have done here. Maybe I should have rerouted the knight right away. Maybe go knight to e7, knight to c8, knight to g6. And those aren't the right squares, sorry. Knight to e7, knight to c8, knight to b6 instead of f5. Just play it a little bit more defensively. And this way, I mean, white would have a4, a5. So maybe the strategy as a whole wasn't very good, and it wasn't a tactical thing. But here I think maybe knight to d5 actually here would have been better. Yeah, that actually maybe that would be what saves the thing. Knight to d5, and then rook takes, I have queen takes, bishop takes, rook takes. Instead of having, and I'd have a knight instead of this dark square bishop. The dark square bishop doesn't really do anything for me, whereas the knight would have been able to help with the c7 square. So I think that just would have been better in general. And then here I probably just ignored the threats too much, and then I got myself in trouble and had to spend a lot of time. So I don't think there's any way to save it at this point after f3. At this point, I think there still is with queen to or knight to a5 maybe. Maybe knight to b4. Because if knight to a5, with the idea of knight to a5, rook takes, and then b6 maybe. And that doesn't even sound that good either, actually. Okay. So, I mean, that's pretty much it, I guess. Well, thanks for watching.